Alrighty, good, well, I don't know, morning, good evening, good afternoon. It certainly is a Saturday morning here in Willamette Valley of Oregon. Hello, YouTube family. Thanks for everybody watching. Yev and Alex, I think, watching. These guys that have been following my transition and hoping to get on a ride here. Oren, Wes, Zach. Man, I could keep going, but anyways, thanks for tuning in. Here's an update everybody been asking about because we need to go through and show you guys what's been done. There's been a lot of chatter, a lot of DMs on the OM swap. If you haven't seen this whole thing in YouTube, if you are new to the channel, I have series of the Frandee restoration right about 5 years ago. Getting over a little bit of a cold, so my throat's a little not all there, so to speak. But anyways, so 5 years ago this went through the restoration and we had the original engine. I'm gonna make this video maybe a little long, but it is what it is. So carbureted 3.3 I believe, or something, about 3 liter 213 CID inline 6 carbureted Ford F series engine with a manual behind it with a granny Lolo. Anybody looking for something like this for a project, hit me up. Maybe I still have it, but this is going for sale. It is a runner, perfectly running engine. Everything works, like as on everything. I pulled it out running. Obviously I drove it in here with that engine. So anyways, we're going back to this guy. You can tell that it's been sitting outside, but so with what I did is I found a donor. It was a 1984 300D Mercedes. And so what we got is Om617 and a 722 315 automatic tranny. I'm going in all these numbers for all those Mercedes geeks, because when you wander around, so you'll find what you want to call it, like all the part numbers and serial numbers of your transmissions on this side here. So the goal was to repower this thing so it could move fairly fast, and now I've uploaded a short already in the channel, but I think I'll throw the video into this video as well in the end so you can see this thing is fast. In that video you will see me back up basically to that fence and stop right before the oil pan here and almost run through, because I was just like, holy smokes, this thing just flies, right? So maybe I'm trying to look, maybe I'll find something interesting in here. Anyways, the biggest deal was, so the engine went through a light rebuild, you could call. So front and rear seals got replaced. The rear was a pain in the butt because it's a half moon one. If you're doing it, you'll know what I mean. This guy is dirty because it was replaced. When I bought the car, it was a crack right here, so it leaked out. So that got replaced, that's why. Ben's Force was a good source to buy certain parts. So I bought the adapters here to go to 10 AN fitting for the hoses for the oil cooler, for the remote one over there. Then this adapter from Ben's Force for your oil pressure, because I just adapted it to the oil pressure gauge that I had it in here. I believe it was from Doomsday Diesel, or maybe it was Ben's Force that I bought it from. So these lines here got replaced, the fuel supply lines. Then Bosch pump, really nice one. Doomsday cap. In my case, it was already done, and this is, I believe it's called Alda Delete. So that was already done. Filter seals in this bolt because they leak commonly. So all the gaskets, like on the bottom pan, the valve cover, valves we adjusted. Obviously pan gasket filter change here. Tranny didn't really get anything other than the Ben's Force adapter to go to a regular U-joint drive shaft. So I did not do anything here at all as far as connection to the transfer case. So keep in mind, this is a rear-wheel drive setup and a divorce transfer case. That's how this setup works. And what we got is an adapter. It's probably about an inch thick. So I'm running, obviously, the original radiator. Considering the length of the transmission and length of the engine combo, I wasn't able to fit the radiator back into this area where it was originally, so I basically put it on the outside and milled out this grill, whatever. You gotta have the bunnies, right? Anyways, let's see what else we got going. Adapting the, not too terrible, I think, I guess. Adapting the heater lines for the inside heat. Then for the breather, I went this route, and actually, let's see if I can. I don't have enough strength right now with one hand, but anyways, I did an oil catch can. You can see right there, well, maybe right there, for the breather, because this thing got to run in. This got replaced. It wasn't very hard, but in my case, the actual rubber was very hard, you could say, over the time. And then just cut this piece off for the back drain for the oil catch can. You can see it in there. And then just use the same hose I used for this guy. But I just bought a kit, and I could probably throw some links into YouTube description, video description. 6AN 60-inch, I think, hose. Again, 6AN to this fitting adapter. I believe that was purchased on eBay, actually. I found out the thread count and whatever matched that. And that goes into a Durali. Let's go from the other side. Durali with a fan oil cooler with a switch, temperature switch. So this thing will turn on. I'm not sure about its position. As you're riding in the snow, obviously everything gets kicked up here, all the moisture, all the water, all the whatever. But in my case, I mean, these guys get installed under the truck beds, you know, when it rains and whatever. So I think these are fairly waterproof. The only thing I think I need to turn my switch. There we go. We got a little better zoom there. Turn the switch around to the other side. This way, the electrical is not getting kicked around and whatever. So the ground will get moved as well. And then I'm tying up all the wiring and everything up. So the blue wire from the alternator, it's the exciter wire. So you gotta basically wire it up to a power source for like, it's gotta have power for probably what, five seconds maybe at the startup, in order to start up the alternator to generate electricity. It's kind of like, if you know anything about generators, that's how the generators work. So it's got to have a 12-volt source. So in fact, what happens on a factory setup, this blue wire connects as it acts as a ground to a light bulb that is in a dash, and then that light bulb, the other side of it, is to the 12-volt power on ignition. And basically, when you turn ignition, the 12-volt lights up the light bulb, and then it goes through the blue wire and grounds here, right? So it grounds off of an alternator, gets power from the battery when the ignition is turned on, and when the ignition stays on, obviously, so that light bulb is ignition activated and always on with ignition. So as you crank, the ignition stays on. Once this starts getting basically, you know, it's getting spun, whatever, right? This ground gets a 12-volt through the light bulb. So when the light bulb stays on, basically this is grounded, and as soon as this gets its 12-volt power enough to start up the alternator to alternate the power, basically it sends the positive signal back this way. So the light bulb is, at first it's positive, negative at the alternator, and then as soon as this starts generating electricity, because all of a sudden, you know, it got what it needed, basically it's like you're boosting the alternator to generate electricity. So this thing becomes positive, this is positive, so light bulb goes away. That's how that works. And if you want to prevent yourself from having issues for light bulb burnout, I believe they put either a diode or a resistor, I think it's a resistor, that they put on one of the legs to make sure that you are still, I think it's resistor. Basically, if the light bulb burns out, you're still able to get the alternator to create power for you. But in any case, I'm not sure if this will get damaged if it's just simply running and not generating power, like in idle. I think it might get hot, But in any case, the engine doesn't really need power to run per se. Only your electricals, whatever, like your heater, fan, and lights. But in case of you needing to just make it out, in a case of emergency, whatever, the engine will, as long as you can start the engine from the battery, the engine does not require any power to run. Okay, with that blotting away, straight piped to a 3-inch. These are 4BT liquid filled mounds. Many asked me about why only 1/4 inch here and no supports from underneath. Well, the center of it is like an inch away from the main frame. I doubted this thing is going anywhere. Fairly easy setup, nothing too complicated. So 225 to 3-inch to this guy. I believe once I put that back on there, I think I'm gonna route it through the hood, because if I cover this up, this is gonna get so warm in here, and I don't want this thing breathing warm air. I want it to breathe cold air. That's the goal. So ignore the wiring. That's all getting tied up today. This was just for the testing purposes. Let's see what else. Oh, vacuum. Ooh, exciting part. If you go to diesel source, you can get one of these adjustable orifices. So we have vacuum coming from the vacuum pump. This valve, or whatever you want to call it, it's like, I think it changes vacuum from here to here. It's same. So I bolted up because I don't have the brake booster. And then these two ports, they have different vacuum amounts going through them. I think this one is meant for VCV valve, vacuum control valve, I think, or is it vacuum control valve? So anyways, they call it VCV valve. And then VCV valve is the one that takes, or so it basically ups and downs the vacuum incoming pressure and bleeds off through an orifice by factory setup to the transmission in order for the transmission to shift right. So diesel source, Kent, apparently he's like the guru of Mercedes diesel engines and such. They built this adjustable orifice which you could use and basically fine-tune the shifting of the transmission. I have played around with it yet, but I have not got the machine to run long distance with shifting multiple, going up and down in shifts and gear, so I do not know yet as far as where I'm getting with this, but it's supposed to work quite fine. The other thing is I'm using basically this port on the valve to go to the fuel shut-off valve. And this is part if you ever, basically what is it called, taking a donor car completely and you got all the parts to it. This is another valve from the Mercedes. And what you can do is, so this incoming pressure, this is outgoing pressure. And I think in my case, this valve right now is just simply open or closed. I don't remember, but I'm not losing anything by doing this. So, but this valve here, the way that works is basically as soon as I power this, it opens up this side and it basically, sucks in and closes off the fuel. I have just tested it. Polarity did not make a difference to me. Maybe it does. If you know anything about these and the polarity differences, feel free to comment, let me know, to clarify some things for myself and others maybe. But I found that the polarity did not work, the difference of changing which port works or which port doesn't. It simply opened or closed this one. So basically the idea is when the engine is running, you do not want to have obviously vacuum coming in here. But when you want to shut it off, you power this guy, you open up this line, and that will create vacuum here, which will shut off the fuel. And while the engine is running, obviously, you got the vacuum coming in. That is why you do not need a vacuum accumulator. Something to keep in mind, at least this is my personal experience up to this point. Another thing that I was able to use was the factory gas pedal. Just same amount of stroke. You can, this is few, I just had to drill, I drilled one higher and then one lower, and then this is like the bottom hole, whatever. But what's nice is that I was able to mount the pedal, in the same fashion as it is originally in the vehicle. You just kind of figure out your height, bent a little bracket there for the pedal footing. Shifter just shifts just as it should. I got the full stroke on the cable links. Just a couple of, I don't know what you want to call them, L brackets or whatever. you know, just use this. L bracket here, original spring as well. And trying to stay as much original as possible, just simply for the fact that if I ever need to find any certain part, it's going to be available. And I'm not really creating anything aftermarket that all of a sudden is not made by somebody who was there just temporarily for some reason. Anyways, another thing was obviously the glow plugs. So 5 glow plugs. As you see, the wiring is not original. I used a 12 gauge SXL wire. When you pop this guy off, you can take apart this plug here. You lift this up, and there's pins in there. The 5 pins in there. Apply some, solder gun in there. Take out the old cables because mine were really just rusted and oxidized wiring. So I just put fresh wiring in here. Match the cylinders. Make sure they're 1 through 5. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm assuming maybe it has something to do with the length of wire and the resistance in here. That's how it senses if one is good as one is bad, or for the fact, how they. I think it's mainly for diagnostics. So if your cold starts are bad, you're getting not very good cold starts, there's a chance that you're not going to get any resistance on the glow plugs. And by troubleshooting it this way, so you put a positive here, negative anywhere on the ground, and if you're getting around, what is that? I want to say 0.8, 0.9, whatever, under just 1 ohm of resistance, your plug is good. But anyways, new cable here. Then what we do is the brown from this, so there's that, there's this guy, that's your power, hot all the time power that goes directly to the battery. It comes to the 80 amp. And then these 4 are the tricky ones. You got to figure out how to do it right. So what happens is the brown is your ground on that plug. I'm going to let this airplane fly by so I can get you guys a better idea of what's going on here. Okay, so that's passed. So brown was in here in this plug. In my case, I have 4, like I said. So brown was the ground. I believe the violet that went and connected to the starting wire down there with the starter. That's how I connected it, right? Then you have, I think it's blue that goes out of there. That's your light bulb for the glow plugs. And the red with the black line, with the black stripe, that's your ignition power when you turn the ignition on. So basically what happens, check it out. You turn on ignition, the relay gets power from the red with the black stripe, so it activates. This one, in my case, 1984, it has a built-in temperature sensor. So it knows how long it needs to stay on. You can whatever. But usually you go off that light bulb. So if you connect the light bulb, basically the blue that comes out of here, I want to say it's blue, or whatever one for the light bulb. So you connect the blue to the one end of the light bulb, another one to the ground, and when the light bulb goes off, you can start it, right? Technically, that's how this thing works. So in our case, you turn the ignition on. This thing gets power through the red with the black line. Light bulb is on. When light bulb goes off, you technically should be able to start it, right? So you're going to go to cranking. As soon as you go to cranking, what happens is the starter wire, the small one there, that's connected to the violet gets a positive signal, and it basically says, hey, you need to turn off because we're cranking. So it will deactivate this guy. So don't confuse the two. Violet to the starter, and then the red with the black stripe goes to the ignition. The brown to the ground, the blue to the light bulb, and these here. So in my case, so far right now, this thing worked set up just fine. Oh, I don't know what else to there. Found this hose kit to be very convenient. Still trying to figure out if I want to stick around with these cold air intake clamps. It seems like they're kind of holding but not holding. I don't know. Drilled and tapped here. That's where I'm getting my temperature, and I think this is going to be on my high end of the temperature range, because what I was seeing around 2 to 210 temps, and I guess this is on the outing, so this is where it's coming out. And I almost wish I could get temperature reading on the bottom there to know. Or maybe I could see if I could figure out how to get a temperature reading from one of these guys down there. What else is there to tell ya? Oh, another thing, Bowden cable. Need to make sure you got that adjusted right for the shifting. And that's about it. So now the thing I need to figure out is if I'm going to be able to get a signal from this mag pickup. And there's another mag pickup here on the flywheel. They both have 2 wires. I'm going to see if I can get them to work with my current dash RPM gauge, whatever. But I'll need to, I'm adding 4 more gauges, probably somewhere along the side here. They're going to be for the EGTs and transmission temperature and boost. Oh, was able to match the automated transmission shifter simply on the floor. Again, my application is a little bit different, but then all I had to do is basically have like an inch wide, 1/4 inch thick aluminum strip, and this is just a test strip that I connected, and I got the perfect shift positioning. We'll probably work on getting the plug to figure out, you know, what signals to maybe prevent myself from starting this up when it's in a gear or something. But so far, for now, the way things are, I'm happy with. So, thanks for staying tuned for all this long conversation. 21 minutes. This is definitely was just a technical overview of what's been done. And again, this is simply just because all the information that I'm providing in this video was information that I needed to figure out through all the groups, forums, and everything. And unfortunately, I did not find anyone just was able to provide a video that gave all this explanation. If you're finding this video, you know, 5 years from now, please don't ask me certain detailed questions because I probably will not remember. But if this is within the first year of this video, you're welcome to ask questions. I will answer what I can. Again, like I said, I'll do my best to get all the links of products that I used on the description, so this way it makes it easier for you guys to find. Keep in mind those links get changed and updated, so don't be screaming and yelling at anyone, including myself, that hey, that link doesn't work, or you know, I got the wrong product. But anyways, cheers, thanks for tuning in, and I guess we'll see you when we're all wrapped up. Oh boy, I forgot the one main thing. Share, like, comment, and subscribe, right? No, but well, yes, that too. And we did hit recently, actually, 31,000. So you see some changes coming up on the channel just simply because what's happening is I have a gentleman helping me run the YouTube channel. And right now we're going inside. You can probably take a guess what we're gonna do. So this is gonna be a cold start. Cold start. So I'm gonna turn ignition and I'm gonna see if I can get you guys to hear the relay on the glow plugs. So listen to the relay. Oh, there it is. So relay is on. So technically, if we had a light bulb running right now, the light bulb would say, hey, you know, it'll be like on and then it's off, and that's based on that temperature sensor. All right, let's see if it cranks. Oh, look at that. Literally just seconds and it's running. Look at this beauty. Yep, exciting times coming in hot. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you later.
Good thing I got brakes.